Hey, you got a sec? Because I want to talk about FTPs real quickly, but FTP in relation to bike racing, because I think it's quite interesting. Guys, welcome back to the What Life. Let's roll. So does having a higher FTP automatically make you better at racing a bike than someone else? It's something that I guess comes up in conversation a whole ton. Now tonight is round one of the ZRL Zwift Racing League, and it's a TT race. And this is interesting because it's probably the one race that's most relevant to an FTP, because you are trying to hold your threshold with a group of other people and work as close to it for the duration of the event. So here's the thing. I don't always see FTP as relating too highly to a load of the bike racing that I do. And we're not talking about high-end elite level cyclists. That's a different plane, it's a different planet. I'm talking about kind of regular people, a bit more like myself, because there are so many things at play that I've experienced at play with bike racing, being able to sit in a group, taking advantage of the draft, sitting in the pack until it comes time for the sprint, that take away from having a really high FTP. So what I'm trying to say is not everyone who has a high FTP is automatically going to finish, or someone that has a higher FTP than you is going to finish higher than you in a race. And that's fair enough. Because quite simply, if I was racing a younger rider, 22, 23, and we both had the same FTP, his repeatability is going to be so much higher than mine that every time there's a surge and the race comes back and a surge and the race comes back, well, I'd probably say that he's got a higher percentage of surviving to make it to the finish line than me, because my repeatability, being a bit older and maybe a little bit less experienced, isn't quite there. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight whilst we do tonight's Zwift race. So it is a TTT tonight, which is a team time trial, and I'll introduce you to them as we kick off the Zwift race. Guys, I'll see you out there in a second. Oh man, does it feel good to be back racing, and I am totally in love with the whole new setup that I have going on for this year. I'm excited about it. Anyway, guys, we are talking about something very specific tonight. FTP, and FTP kind of relating to racing. Like, how useful is it? Like, is it useful? Is it not useful? Okay, first off, we're doing a team time trial. I have 3 ladies on my team. I have Tilly, I have Pia, I have Johanna. Then I have 2 guys on my team. I have Dijon and I have Dan. So we've got a 6-person group for our first TT of the season, or it's the only one for this round. And we decided that I'd do 4 minutes on the front to try and figure out what kind of watts we hold. I haven't done a team time trial on Zwift forever, like since the last ZRL. Anyway, long story short, I think the dynamics have changed, because I think you can really push the watts on the front and the guys on the back really get a good draft out of it. So let's just have a quick look at where I am. So here's some stats for you, which is basically in the last 90 days compared to my all-time numbers. Where am I? Where am I with my cycling? Like, how have I improved? And you can pretty much see that most stuff from like 2.5 minutes right through to like 30 minutes in the last 90 days, the last 3 months, end of summer, I've just been PBing on Zwift. I haven't been on Zwift a whole amount. I'm getting back into it now, but I've done a few races and whatnot. Like, I'm just putting the watts down now, and this does include tonight, by the way, just to say that the effort that was tonight is included in this. But this is my point: is FTP is just, obviously it's a very good indicator of kind of how physically capable you are as a cyclist. But if you think of it this way, kind of FTP is watts, racing is application of watts. And that's the way I like to think about it. And my whole point is that I will probably get beaten by someone that has maybe the same FTP as me in a race if they have better repeatability than me. And an event like this, which is a team time trial,
And this is me still sat at the front trying to figure out kind of what kind of wattage we can hold as a group. And I kind of at first, I think we were deciding about 4.5 watts per kg, which for me, I think it's about 350 watts. And I was going to do that for 3-4 minutes and then roll off and let the others take the turn. But I think given the dynamics, the Zwift dynamics nowadays, you can actually push a team time trial. Like the front rider can literally be doing way more watts and the person sat on the back. And you'll see on the right, obviously you can see my watts my watts are always top left, but you can see relative to the others what I'm pushing on the front and like what they are holding, which I always think is quite interesting. But yes, if you are at the back of a team time trial, you are getting way more draft than I actually gave this credit for, and I probably should have pushed these first 4 or 5 minutes a bit harder, kind of at least up to like 5 watts per kg, which I think I could have held. I could have held like 400 watts for 4 minutes to kick off, and that would have given us just a bit more of a lead in. But also, we have 3 people that haven't done a team time trial before, so we needed them to kind of figure it out a little bit on the fly. And yeah, we didn't want to go out the gate and just drop people. That wasn't the plan. Anyway, so application of watts and watts. My FTP has gone up. If you, I don't suggest you do, but if you go back to the beginning of this whole journey of just diving on Zwift, doing Zwift races, sharing them, like back in the day when I was told by Paris, I bless that little girl, I do miss her, to not share it. She was like, don't put that stuff on YouTube, to where I am now. Like, I'm so happy I did, because it kept me accountable and it really has helped me develop as a bike rider, like doing all this stuff. But here's my point, which is my FTP has gone up. So I'm able to basically just hold higher watts for longer. And obviously through doing all the training, all the racing, all the riding that I've done over the last like 2 years, my repeatability has improved. But the interesting thing is I'd say that my base FTP hasn't changed a huge amount. The duration that I can hold a higher watts is that's the thing that's definitely increased more than the amount of watts that I can hold. And I hope that makes sense. Like, let's say 2 years ago I could hold like 280 watts for 40 minutes. Now I can hold like 300 for like an hour. So, you know, the number of watts haven't changed drastically, but the amount of time that I can hold them. And I think that's partly due to me not having a huge experience on the bike and like pushing figures on the bike and pushing numbers on the bike. And then also maybe being a little bit older, I think the adaptation probably doesn't kind of shine through as much. Anyway, for the Zwift race, all I'm showing you is basically my pulls. Because you move to the back, you sit on the back, the group rolls through. We were trying to do maybe 60-second turns holding reasonable watts. Again, I think at this point someone had dropped I think it was Dan, dropped off the back a little bit because his girlfriend had been locked out the house and she couldn't get back in. Anyway, these are the typical dramas that you have with a group-based race on Zwift. So he basically had to jump off his bike, let his girlfriend in the house, and then we lost him. So Dan did half a race, but this was his first TTT, and it was good to have him on board anyway. So what's really changed for me? Okay, good question. Ultimately, I think I've worked quite hard to get my FTP to be higher, but what's been more important to me is being able to hold these numbers for longer. So what I've really been focusing on this year, and this year I think has actually been the big jump for me in terms of improvement and ability, especially in numbers, like visible recorded numbers, has been doing repeatable intervals. And this isn't rocket science. Like, guys, there's so much content online about training and bike training. I think the application of bike training, if we all did as much training as we watch people talk about training on YouTube, we'd be so much better at cycling. In that, my point basically being that you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want and train hard in some capacity. Doesn't, the split of the intervals isn't really going to be the determining factor as to whether you get better or not. It's the fact whether you do it. So, it doesn't matter whether you're doing 3-minute intervals or 4-minute intervals with a 1-minute rest or a 4-minute rest. The fact that you're doing it and doing it consistently is far more the important thing. But what have I been doing? I've been focusing on 3-minute intervals and 5-minute intervals, basically, with the occasional kind of longer, like 20-minute, I still do loads of Zwift racing, but like the longer 20-minute steady ride. And I've been trying to bump those numbers up, and that has 100% helped me, obviously, to increase my FTP, like that baseline number that I keep dropping back down to. And the reason I like to try and improve my FTP is more for the recovery state. So let's, for instance, say that this group was firing along really quickly and I was the weak link in the chain, or the rider that had the least watts. I basically, when I drop to the back, you're still kind of getting pushed even though you're in the draft. You want to make sure that your bottom line number, what you can recover at, is still quite high. And that's obviously why these elite cyclists are so good. They're obviously recovering at just like insanely good numbers. But for me, obviously not being anywhere near an elite, I think that's still applicable and really interesting. So doing these slightly longer intervals, like those 5-minute intervals, like the Gorby on Zwift, there's a workout called I think it's called the Gorby, like 5 times 5 or 5-minute rest. I love doing that because it lets you settle in for my age group, for my ability, because like if I try and do really aggressive like 40-20s or 20-40s or whatever you want to call it, sometimes it's the repeatability of that I struggle with. Whereas if I do slightly longer, 3-minute, 5 minutes, as someone that's a bit older, I can settle into that. I can find my rhythm and I can hold it a bit better. So that kind of like plays to my strength. Obviously, I do understand I do need to do more of those shorter, sharper intervals. There are a few moments in this race where it basically becomes one of the riders end up kind of riding off the front, and then we have to close the gap down. So I don't know why I don't have the heat map, like the watt heat map at the bottom of the screen here. I must have turned it off, a bit out of practice with recording all of this. But for next race, which will be a points race, scratch race, I think it's a scratch race, start to finish. We are racing Cat A, by the way. And just to dial this back, when I first started doing this, I was like getting dropped in Cat C. Now I'm hopefully going to be trying to hold Cat A races. Cat A races, to give you an idea of the people that won this race, were pushing like 5.6 watts per kg for the 32 minutes that it took them to do it. We're not up there. I think we end up, I'm like 3.9 watts for the 36 minutes that it takes us. I felt like it could have been a bit more. I think the training that I've done, the 3-minute intervals, the 5-minute intervals, I'm going to try and shorten the rest period on my training for that, because I want to effectively kind of be able to hold those performative watts, the performance-based watts, with slightly less recovery, and then try and work on that repeatability, try and work on that neuromuscular recovery. And I think that'll be good for me. Tilly, who is our team captain, she's Australia eSports 2025 national champion. She sends it towards the end, and I'm just trying to hold on when we get to the finish of this. But the one thing I'm pretty happy with is that this whole thing, 36 minutes, didn't feel too bad. It only started feeling bad towards the end when I'm putting in little kicks here. I definitely struggled, like literally over the line. I was gassed, but the first 20 minutes felt pretty okay, fine, pretty easy. So I'm pretty happy with it. I felt like I had more, which is a good way to finish. And I'm looking forward to doing the points races, but I am going to try and do. So my regular routine is going to be a Tuesday night Zwift race, a Thursday night session, loads of zone 2 in between, and then maybe something else. We'll figure it out. But look, here's my heat map. So I'll just show you very quickly the heat map of the 36 minutes that we did that in. 1 second. Yeah, you can basically see that the back end of the race was quite hard for me, just like pushing and taking more turns, being more regular with it. And then you'll also see where in the last 90 days I've managed to kind of improve some of my times. I'm pretty happy with it. Like, guys, I'm really happy with the way that I've improved, especially if I look back 2 or so years ago, and I'm super pumped for the season. And guys, thanks for joining in. See you on another one soon.